right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you may be. Thank you for joining us. Another episode of Catching Up with Jacob and catching up with all of us. Jacob, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing okay in Jesus. Praise the Lord. Uh, Very briefly, I'd like to just say a couple things at the beginning concerning prayer requests, and that I'll be coming to America soon, but introduce the other
Yes,
panel.
yeah, we'll let you. You're trying to get ahead, Jacob. Gonna hold you back
Yes.
a little bit here. Uh, well, he's back from the Far East. David Lister, how are you, David? David, I think you're muted. I think we muted you, or you muted yourself. One of the two.
Yeah, we're working back here with Mia's back.
All right. God bless you, Mia. Yeah.
God bless you
Uh,
guys.
David, I thought
That's the
the
illustrious Mia,
NSA
the
NSA
Yeah, it's
American.
good to be back.
I don't know if it was the NSA was censoring you, but your mic went off. So, keep an
Yeah,
eye.
I turned it off because we were working on taxes.
I'm just kidding. I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. Don't worry about it. Yeah. Down under, David. How are you, Davey?
Doing pretty good, thanks. Good to be here with you all.
God bless you, brother. And Jay, off the 101.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hello from kind of sunny California.
Yeah, it's kind of sunny out there today. Yeah, it's been overcast. I think we got some rain coming up, but good to see you, Jay.
Good to see you.
God bless you. Jacob Prash, you got some announcements. Let's do it now, and then we'll proceed with the other announcements. Go ahead.
We've been announcing prayer requests. When I was in India, we expected a lot of opposition when we opened the new church. Well, we only had a little bit of opposition when the church was opened, and God has blessed it, but now there is a kickback. And it's not just from radical Sikhs, it is from police, government officials. There have been police complaints and investigations going on. Again, it's just persecution. Please keep Moriel, India in prayer, particularly the situation in the Punjab. We have a new church on the border between India and Pakistan and the Punjab, between the Muslim city of Lahore and the Sikh city of Amritsar. And a lot of spiritual opposition, but the church is beautiful. The people are beautiful. The church is growing. But the devil is not taking it sitting down. So please keep the situation in prayer in India, and pray for Mark Jackson, myself, and also for Pastor VJ. Pastor VJ, please pray that the Lord will intervene. I am due to be coming to the United States soon. I'll be speaking in New York City on the 27th at the Church of the Open Door in East Greenwich Village on 3rd Avenue and 7th Street. Details are on the Moriel website, the itinerary page, or you can just Google Moriel itinerary.
That's January, right, Jacob?
Sorry, what did I say? February?
You didn't say any month.
Okay. January the 27th this month. We shall be there. And on the following day, the 28th, we shall be at the Church of the Open Door in Baltimore. After that, we will be with the Massey Foundation in Texas, and we will be in California with Marco Quintana in Devore, and we shall also be back in New York City again in early March. Again, the dates are on the website. Finally,
we have some in Florida too.
Oh,
Southern Florida, Jacob.
I forgot Florida. We shall be in Florida as well. Please visit the website. I forget the exact dates and location in Florida. I just know I'm going there. No.
Yeah, they can visit the website for sure. The itinerary is there. If you want any
Yeah.
more further questions, you can drill down on the website for sure.
And a statement that will only be pertinent to people mainly in Great Britain. This week, Roger Forster gave up the ghost. Roger Forster and myself were at theological odds with each other very often. He was one of the kingpins of the Restoration movement, of the house church restoration movement, that believed in three things that I always said were never scriptural. They wanted to restore three things that were never scriptural. Their view of prophetic authority, where people could predict things that don't happen and still be considered prophets, very much like Mike Bickle and the Kansas City prophets. They were in bed with them. Their view of apostolic authority, which was not biblical, it was monarchical, and in some cases, it did result in heavy shepherding. I'm not saying Roger Forster himself was into heavy shepherding, but it had that kind of structure. And the third thing, of course, was dominion theology, that they're going to conquer the whole world for Christ before he comes. Roger Forster taught a lot of error. He was a number one proponent of annihilationism in England. Him and the late John Stott. Now neither one of them are with us, and neither one of them any longer, I don't believe, still hold to the view of annihilationism. He was also a proponent of replacement theology. Now, I don't rejoice or celebrate his death at all. I don't judge his salvation or his intentions. But he had his own take on the views of Arthur Wallace, who was sometimes right, but usually wrong, and of somebody called Austin Sparks. Again, Austin Sparks said a lot of good things, but Roger Forster had his own spin or his own take on these people. I'm not judging him or his motives, but his theology was wrong. He misled a lot of people. He led the Ichthus Fellowship, and he's gone. I do think his departure, now the Gerald Coates and others in that movement are also gone, not all of them, but it's a turning point in Britain. I think it's Mike Bickle is gone. He was the American counterpart in many respects. Kansas City Prophets are history, who they again were teamed up with, but now Roger Forster is gone. I am not mourning his death, but neither am I celebrating it. But I am saying the man taught a lot of error and did a lot of damage. And I just hope that this will be an opportunity for the cause of truth to go forward. And people who were caught up in his Ichthus Fellowship will see through the errors that he's left as his legacy. Such is it. That's only for people in Britain who know who Roger Forster was and who know about Ichthus Fellowship and the Restoration Movement. The Restoration Movement in England was a forerunner of the New Apostolic Reformation, of the NAR. Enough of that. Marco?
Very good. Thanks, Jacob, and we appreciate it. And looking forward to seeing you, of course, in the States, and looking forward to. And I believe you're going to Australia, New Zealand in the spring.
Asia.
What would that be? The fall, just prior to the winter time over there. So that would be great. And Davey, looking forward to having Jacob over there. That'd be a lot of fun with you guys, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, Davey, is that fall season over there?
It'll be late fall going into winter. Yep.
Oh, perfect time. Good time. Good time. Absolutely. We're looking forward to that. More details to come in terms of Jacob's visit to Australia and New Zealand. It'll be a lot of fun to be there as well. I didn't think we had any more announcements. Do we have any more announcements? David, did you have an announcement? That we talked about Florida, Texas Drive, California, New York? Well, we covered everything. Jacob, I'm going to go back to you. This is something unique that we started a couple of weeks ago. It's called a hot take. And I suppose it's getting hot. It's getting hot in the world. It's getting hot in, of course, in the aspects of war and rumors of war. But your hot take specifically today has to do with what's going on here in America. I'm going to turn it over to you. You got your hot take, Jacob. Go.
Okay, there are two aspects to what we see transpiring in the aftermath of the Iowa caucus and of the upcoming primary election in New Hampshire, where people can vote across party lines. In other words, Democrats can try to vote for the Republican who's going to be the weakest candidate against the Democrat nominee. And the Republican Party establishment, the Koch brothers, people like that, are backing Nikki Haley. Unfortunately, Governor DeSantis is not a major player in New Hampshire. He's moving on to the Carolinas, but New Hampshire will be significant following Iowa. This is happening at a time where you see people like Senator Rand Paul, who's a libertarian / conservative, but he's primarily a libertarian, warning about Nikki Haley. Now, one time I liked Nikki Haley when she was the U.S. ambassador to the UN. I thought she was effective. And by all accounts, she was a reasonably good governor. But evident that she is a rhino, and compromising on border issues and a number of other things. She's an establishment Republican. She's not a conservative. So you're beginning to see this conflict within the Republican Party, not just between Donald Trump, who the Democrats are trying to politically weaponize the judicial system to keep him from getting elected or even being able to run, but running against the Republican Party establishment, who will cooperate with the Democrats against Trump. We see Fox News going in this direction. They don't like Joe Biden, but they don't like Donald Trump. Now, by the way, I voted for Mr. Trump twice, but I would not vote for him again for a couple of reasons. The first one being his homosexual lesbian gala held in Mar-a-Lago. I can't vote for anybody who supported that, but I'm just reporting or observing and assessing what is happening in the aftermath of the Iowa caucus. One of the things we're seeing happening is this. In the Senate right now, Mitch McConnell is in some kind of concordat with Chuck Schumer, compromising on border security. This is not the first time the rhinos have done this. Now, some rhinos, or someone I thought was a rhino, Tim Scott, at one time I thought he was a conservative, then I thought he was a rhino. Today he's come out and endorsed Donald Trump, which is interesting. Also, Marco Rubio, who is definitely a rhino, has endorsed Donald Trump. So it's a very, very confusing playing field. But there is a basic lineup between the rhinos and the conservatives, no matter how you want to look at it. And some of the rhinos are jumping the rhino ship, aligning with Trump, maybe just for political motives, but it seems to be happening. Mitch McConnell is, of course, a sellout, and he will sell out unless he's politically forced to do otherwise. So it's not just Trump versus Biden or the Republicans versus the Democrats. It's the conservative faction of the Republican Party up against the rhinos. They're fighting a war within and without at the same time. This is also having a parallel in the Democratic Party. James Carville, who I don't like, but he's politically astute, but ideologically I obviously don't like him. He is warning of the third party candidate, Robert Kennedy, RFK's son, and that he could take a significant percentage of votes from the Democrats running as an independent. They hate him. Biden will not give him Secret Service protection, despite his father and his uncle having been assassinated, his father being assassinated by Sirhan Sirhan, an Arab, when his father was a presidential candidate during the primaries in the old Ambassador Hotel in LA. And it just shows you the corruption and treachery of the Democratic Party. And somebody from the iconic family of the Democratic Party, the royal family of the Democratic Party, the Kennedys, Biden is denying him, and you know the people looking over Biden's shoulder telling him what to do, denying Secret Service protection to the son of Robert Kennedy when his father was assassinated when he was running in the Democratic primaries. This is how ugly and treacherous it's become within the Democratic Party. So you've got that division. But at the same time, you have a similar division within the Tory party, the Conservative Party in Britain, over the same issue, immigration. Suella Braverman and the real conservatives, who are more akin to Margaret Thatcher and things of that nature, an ideology of that nature, are up against Sunak. Sunak has something called the Rwanda Plan, which is a compromise. It will not guarantee keeping Islamic and other refugees out of Great Britain. It's not making a strong enough provision to protect Britain from Islamic and other immigration that shouldn't be taking place. So you have a division between the conservatives and the pseudo-conservatives. In Britain, the same as you have between the conservative Republicans and the rhino Republicans. It's a similar mess in Britain, a similar mess in America. And you've got it in the Democratic Party. quite a situation. Now, it is very interesting this week that, among other things, that Rasmussen, which has traditionally been the most credible poll, I'm not saying any of them are perfect, but the Rasmussen polls have more credibility than the others based on their overall success rate. The Rasmussen polls have said two things. Neither one the Democrats are enjoying. One, that 2/3 of the American people, 2/3, including pro-abortion people, believe there should be restrictions legislatively on abortion, that there should not be late-term abortion, not be partial birth abortion. Even pro-abortion people want restrictions on abortion. Okay, that's one of the things that's happening, and the Democrats don't like that. They only believe in democracy when it suits them. When it doesn't, they want to sweep it under the rug. But the other thing is, a majority of the country believes that Biden is not running the country, Obama is. That Obama is running the Biden administration through proxies. That is very, very interesting. The Democrats are divided, the Republicans are divided, and in Britain, the conservatives are divided among themselves. Everybody's deciding whose side they're going to try to come down on, partially out of self-political interest and partially out of just a general uncertainty of the way things are going to go. But it's quite a mess. Quite a mess. There is no cohesion. That is my take for the week.
All right, Jacob, very good. It's on record. We'll put it out there, and people can enjoy it time and time again. Let's talk about some things that are going on. Jacob, we know the WEF has had their meeting this week, and everyone's aware of that. At least we let them know last week, and we'll be talking about that. But one of the things they did talk about was AI. But I did want to bring up what Goldman Sachs said this week, which was really interesting. Yes. They predict 300 million jobs will be lost and degraded by artificial intelligence. Now, this is regarding generative AI, which has to do with voice, speech, images, things like that. And not talking about general AI, which is much robust and sophisticated. Some people think they'll never get there. But nonetheless, if they do end up with the hype of generative AI and what they're supposed to be accomplishing, 300 million jobs, Jacob, that's a lot of people. We'll go to you first. How will it impact people's jobs? Then we'll go to the panel. We'll go to David and Davey and Jay, but we'll start with you. How will it impact your job? I mean, what is Goldman Sachs saying? At 300 million jobs, that's quite a bit.
I had dinner last night in the Carlton Club in London. If you don't know what the Carlton Club is the dinner club, and it's a political club with dining and things like this for the Conservative Party. Going back to Disraeli, Lord Bellflower, Winston Churchill, people like that, Benjamin Disraeli, Margaret Thatcher, quite a place with a lot of history. And I was there last night with a young executive who works on the edge of certain aspects of finance in London. And he told me that the inside word is Britain is going to lose tons of chartered accountants. Chartered accountants are called certified public accountants. In the United States, they're going to be the first ones hit, unless it is a highly specialized chartered accountant or CPA with say a STEM degree or a degree in petroleum production engineering. Unless they're highly specialized, there's going to be a great shedding of jobs.
Wow.
Even among professionals. Now, this is obviously going to hit insurance actuaries. Actuaries are one of the highest paid professions in the Western world because they're statistical mathematicians who analyze risk assessments. The insurance industry runs on actuarial analysis. These are high-paid, prestigious career jobs, and they're going to face decimation. They're going to face decimation directly due to AI. But this is only the beginning. Only the beginning. And it's going for these high-paid professionals and executives.
Yeah, much more than the lower paying ones.
And it's only the beginning. What does that tell us? What Harari said is interesting. What are you going to do with these 300 million people who are now in a social parasite class, a welfare state, because there's no jobs for them? What do we need so many people for? That's the question that they're asking.
Right.
It would be hard to understand this issue extraneous to the fact that they're trying to reduce farming, agriculture, to
At the
sustain
same
a
time.
lower population.
Yeah.
Now, what is also interesting is that the WEF conference taking place now in Davos, its main theme and purpose for this year was damage control.
Yeah, trust us. Trust us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
trust us, damage control. They know globalism itself is in trouble. So again, there's a confusion coming to the, forgive me, I'm not trying to ridicule, but I am, the Schwab slobs. They're coming into a state of confusion themselves. Scriptures tell us there'll be fear and anxiety among the nations, none of them knowing the way out.
That's right. Amen.
Praise God that we know the way out.
That's right. And there's only one way out of this world is Jesus. David Lister, real quick, how will it impact your job? We know an AI can pass a bar exam. We know it can score brilliantly on an SAT, produce great artwork, audio media. We'll talk about that in a moment. We got things like Chatbot GPT. We got different types of AIs now. DALL-E, Chatbot GPT had 5 million users within 5 days. So companies want to save money. Of course, they're going to go to AI. But what's the downside, and how does it look like for people's jobs in the future?
Well, one thing you left off, he can write sermons too, which I think people and some pastors are already doing. But the one thing it can't do is have a relationship with Jesus Christ. So anyway, but the bad side is people, a lot of the poor nations where you have like call centers, where you have computer centers, where you have a lot of this can be taken over by AI. They're using voice, they're using messaging, they're using all sorts of things that can fix the problems so quickly and be so efficient. So you're talking now, when Harari's saying 300 million people, he's seeing them as eaters. And I mean, as useless people. That's the term he used, useless at that point.
Yeah,
And
useless eaters.
yeah. And so what happens is they've been working on this for years with population control. They're spiking food nowadays with the COVID thing, with the possibility of more pandemics, planned or unplanned, coming that are going to happen. And so it's basically people are going to be without jobs and with a living. And so there's been this talk of providing people with a basic income. And I think there was somebody that planned that a long time ago. He said he'd give them enough food for a day's work, so
Yes.
yeah, but so it's going to get bad, and so and worse, because it'll hit the poor first. And generally in these places, these people only have enough food for a day, 2 days, 3 days, and when
Yeah,
it drops off and they have no money, it's going to be horrible. And it's already hard to feed people in the third world, and seeing the poverty when I go to these countries, it's amazing. And so, but the all these things with human population control, they've been working on for years and years, and they want to see the decline of the population. Didn't Harari said, hey, we'll save 200,000 people in an ark and flush the rest?
Yeah, he did quite a few years ago. I don't know. this is an interesting one. I mean, normally technology uh primary
Helps.
drives the income equality, right? The US income inequality, I should say, over the past 40 years. So technology improves, and then obviously wages drop because they don't need as many people, or they don't work. They're not able to work. But we're talking about a whole change in society here, because
Yes.
it's not just AI, it also comes with robotics. It's like
Yeah.
a double disruption. So does anyone want to comment on the AI double disruption with robotics, which are they're going to come ubiquitous, according to the World Economic Forum, as ubiquitous as electricity or the internet has become?
Can I add one thing that Jacob, he said high paying jobs. Well, newspapers are in giant trouble. The LA Times is going to have a massive layoff. The union called it the big one. The Washington Post lost $100 million last year. So these billionaires need these newspapers to help manipulate people. And so it's hit, you can see it's hit writers, it's hitting news, it's hitting the Hollywood industry. So it's going to change our lives in ways, and it's going to happen quickly. But as robotics, look, now you don't need as many. The recent strike up at the automobiles, they were fighting because with the new plants and new machines, you don't need as many people. So
It's also hitting Silicon Valley. It's hitting social media. Not thousands yet, but hundreds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hitting Hollywood, social media, Silicon Valley. So
Detroit.
what does the future look like then?
You
People
know,
not being able to eat,
as
UBI?
Christians, we ultimately know throughout history, we have had the view that machines are our servants.
Yes.
Machines are our servants, our tools, our servants. Revelation 13 tells us it's going to come to a time, a point, with the image of the beast, where a machine that's going to be animated with, it's literally going to be animated with breath. A machine combined with a demonic infusion, a satanic infusion. A machine is going to see people as its servants. Instead of us seeing our car, our computer, our pneumatic drill, our servants, a machine will see the human race as its servant. Only the machine will be, of course, satanically controlled and animated. Now, that's what it's coming to. But if you told that to the average unsaved person, even though they may be able to understand how it could happen, we're not talking about science fiction anymore. We're just talking about science and technology. They're still not going to believe the gospel, most of them.
Mm.
But for those who do believe the gospel, we are to keep an eye on what these things mean. And they're going to Revelation 13. That is for sure. The question is how fast?
Yeah, obviously universal basic income comes a big part of that, and how people are going to
course.
sustain themselves. The rise of artificial intelligence will even make
Absolutely.
software engineer obsolete, which is the goal, isn't it? To have AI write its own software. That's really the goal.
That's
Right
correct.
now, right now it's just self-driving cars. Right now they can play chess. Right now they can make images, but the goal is ultimately programming, which is what you've been talking about, Jacob, from Revelation 13, about the
Yes.
image of the beast being able to speak, being able to, obviously would be demonically empowered. And so a lot of things that are going on, but one of the things that it's coming to a head is what is called this AI warfare. And I don't know if you guys, we talked a little
Yes.
bit about Roger Stone and these AI generated fake audio that was trying to implicate Roger Stone, which is a Trump supporter. Basically, he was swatted. He was swatted and investigated because
Yes.
somebody made an AI snippet of his own voice saying they need to kill Nadler, Jerry Nadler, and Swalwell, Eric Swalwell, which are members of Congress. And he was immediately investigated. It was, he had to prove that he didn't do it. He went to a speech expert. They found out that there was 92% AI for sure. So it's quite an interesting thing that now it's becoming an AI warfare, not only images, audio, They can make you say things on the internet that you never said. They can make you be in places that you've never been. And I think it
Yes.
was the Galaxy, which is a new phone that's coming out, Jay. It's the new Galaxy. What's the number?
I'm not sure, but
Oh, like the new Galaxy 35. I don't know, no idea. Whatever number it is. And you can actually take a picture of somebody and manipulate the picture, put him somewhere where the picture wasn't
yeah,
taken,
remove the
or
background and change it.
move, move the person, make them do this, make them do that. And all you did was take a normal picture. So we're in this age where you don't trust anything that is on the internet anymore. We've been in that, but now it's hitting a crescendo. They call this the AI Fugazi because it was a fake. But how long, Jacob, until nefarious characters began to use AI to plant things against Christians, against believers, against conservatives, et cetera, et cetera?
Of course, absolutely. But we have to understand something. It's not just the AI, it's the zeitgeist, it's the spirit of the age. It's the spirit of Antichrist. Not the technology itself, but the way, as you point out, it's going to be used and misused. I look again to the book of Revelation, verse 15 of Revelation 13, and there was given to him to give breath to the image of the beast, an animated automaton that has a pneuma, a spirit. That's the term in Greek. So when God breathed on Adam, he became a living soul. Or when Jesus rose from the dead and breathed on the apostles in John 20, received the Holy Spirit. Satan is going to do that with some kind of a super robot. And we can see the technological means, certainly, for this evolving into a reality. I'm convinced. I am convinced. I've been warning for many years we're seeing a rapprochement between science and the occult. I've been saying that for 25 years. And we've only seen the beginning.
Yeah.
I saw it coming in laser holography. I saw it coming in particle physics. I saw it coming in holistic medicine. But only recently have I begun to see it coming in quantum computing.
Yeah.
With
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, this issue with the AI, okay, it's probably going to get squashed pretty soon, but you can make anybody say something on the internet. You can make anybody say anything, and it's going to come to persecution, I believe. If you watch some of the WF forum breakaway sessions when they talked about AI, and they actually were able to translate. One of the ones that's fascinating, Javier Milei, the president of Argentina, was there, and he spoke. And the AI translated it into English with his accent, with his voice. As Jay pointed out, they made his lips move a certain way. It was incredible, better than the dub version that you would call it, right? The dub version that they normally have in English and from Spanish to English. So we're living in that age.
Yes, Mark, but what you're saying is something else we've been talking about for 25 years or more. Man thinking he can reverse the curse of the Tower of Babel.
That's right.
With AI, you're going to have somebody speaking one language being understood in another within a fraction of a second.
Oh,
Have AI translation and lip sync.
Yeah, we're there. We're there.
You know, God cannot allow that to happen. When God placed a curse on human communication because of the Tower of Babel,
Yeah.
he cannot allow fallen man under the influence of Satan to reverse what God has decreed. Now, I've been saying that that's going to happen with longevity and what's going to happen with language. And we're on the precipice of that happening with language. Just look at what you're talking about at the World Economic. He was speaking Spanish like he was English.
I know it was quite impressive, and I think the AI that they use, everybody was interested in it. It's called Hygen, Heygen, and it's almost live. Like you can just Jacob can speak Japanese in a moment. You know, you just have him here speak Japanese better than any dub version that I've seen so far. So, and we're just like you said, Jacob, we're just at the beginning. It's just the onset. What the internet and social media did, 10, 15 years ago, now AI is going to disrupt everything, but a much faster scale in a much detrimental way.
I've wasted thousands of hours of my life studying and practicing to speak foreign languages.
See, all you had to do was wait
I
it
was
out a
just
few years.
I mean, you know,
Yeah, you waited out a few years, you would have been speaking Farsi. That would have been.
Well,
Now,
there goes translator jobs at the UN, which I'm all for.
now here we go again. Another WEF scenario. David, we'll go to you. The ZX, January 17th. I have the actual breakaway session. I was able to listen to it. Yeah, January 17th at 11:30 CET time, whatever that time was. The host was some of these experts in the WHO and things like that. But what they were talking about is this disease X, this variable that could be 20 times more fatalities, could cause more fatalities than the one that we just had in 2020. So this was quite a bit of attending. The attendance was pretty large on this. And preparing for disease X. How can you prepare for something that it's not here yet and say there's 20 times more fatalities? Over to you.
Well, the Chinese had developed a disease that they tried and tested on mouse, found it killed them so quickly, it was just astonishing to them, and it was 100% effective. They did some of this type testing with the bat woman and with the coronavirus, okay, manipulating it, making it have gain of function research. And they say they do all these things so that they can, when something like these diseases do come along, they'll be ready. But we know that men's hearts are getting increasingly evil in these last days. When we hear people at the World Economic Forum talking like gods and say, if you mess with them, they'll kill you.
Yeah.
You understand that these people, look, they've been trying to lower the population, but it's too slow for them. It's not working. We're still breeding more faster than they can kill us. So what they're going to need to do is mass killing. And what better way to look? They're using all sorts of things being dropped from the air. Why not spread a disease through a plane out the back and just kill out whole populations? Their evilness is not limited. It's almost like it's not limited anymore. What they can do or what they want to do.
So the unofficial number, whatever number you want to put it, it's 7 million people worldwide that lost their lives through the last virus, and I would say that the medicine was worse than the disease, but we'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Now, if it's 20 times more fatality than that, from 7 million, you're talking hundreds of 140 million people that are going to be affected by this, if their numbers are even right. Now, Harari, which we quoted earlier, which by the way, it's Barack Obama's favorite author. I don't know if you guys know that. Barack Obama's favorite author has spoken at Davos several times. The question of the 21st century, you guys brought it up. What do we do with all these humans? Well, I guess we can give them, he said, we can give them drugs. We can give them video games. We can give them entertainment. And as Jay pointed out, aren't we already there?
yeah.
Yep.
We're already there in terms of the drug of choice, legal drugs in different states here in America. Jacob, are they telegraphing something to us here?
It's a combination of them trying to control circumstances that are just developing and evolving. They're trying to control that, but also, to quote Rahm Emanuel, never let a crisis go to waste. Incorporated into their agenda. Globalism itself is facing many threats for certain reasons, obviously. Globalism is facing threats. Now, going back some time now, if anyone read Alvin Toffler's books, Future Shock and The Third Wave, he said this was going to happen. There'd be a trend towards globalism, but there'd also be a trend towards localism that would be facilitated by technology. And I'm not saying he was a prophet in any biblical sense, but he had a marvelously analytical mind to see the way technology was going to affect the economy and society and culture. It's astounding how accurate Alvin Toffler was in most respects. In fact, nearly all respects. Well, this is happening. They're trying to control it because the globalism they've built itself is now in a precarious state. So they're trying to capitalize on these things to preserve and advance their own interests, even though they're not in firm control of it. They'd like to be. Think of China. China, through lockdowns, kept COVID from spreading, even though China invented it and Fauci lied about it. When they were finally forced to lift it, look what happened. They couldn't cremate the corpses fast enough. So they lied about it. It was the Wuhan virus. That's what it was. It was the Wuhan virus. They kept a lid on it by the lockdowns, by rigid lockdowns. And when they couldn't do that anymore, look what happened. I'm sure that the 7 million figure is wrong. It was probably at least 5 million in China alone. I
Yeah,
really
no. Yeah, I think they're
I don't
way
believe-
way
yeah.
underreported. Way underreported. Now,
There, China has been making mobile trucks that are crematoriums, so you can just go throw them in. The next one, the next one, next one. You can go to where you have these small little pickup trucks with crematoriums on the back.
now when you have a Chinese lab already telling you that they are crafting a mutant strain of the previous virus with a kill rate of 100%, and their only response is, well, we were so surprised how rapidly it killed the mice. It is, I mean, it's almost like you're ready to just check out and go be like, you know what? They're telling you what they're doing. They're boasting about it. You know, whether they want to control this aspect or that aspect, well, that is true. But the reality is that they're promoting the idea that we can just make a virus, at least in this lab. And nope, I mean, have you seen any protests about it? Have you seen any government saying this is absolutely uncalled for? You need to call back all these scientists and put them in prison. You can't create a lab. You can't create a mutant disease like that. It's going to kill everybody.
Yes.
Now, some people said it's like when the Americans developed the atomic bomb, but I would say this is quite a bit different,
Worse.
isn't it? Because there's one nation that was doing it, and it was going to use it for a certain purpose, and nobody's ever been used again. They seem to just be at will wanting to use any of these pathogens, which, by the way, there are 64 pathogens that have actually been scheduled, funded, that could be released. And this is the scary thing. 64 pathogens really have been created. I mean, what kind of the world are we living now?
61s that we know about, by the way.
Yeah.
Every
Un-
many
unofficially.
many governments are doing these experiments, or funding them, or working and cooperating. It's just like evil has been let loose upon the
Absolutely.
world. There's no restraining it, you know.
The new one is the heart failure one. The heart failure one's called
Yeah.
Vexus, you know, which is this is what's it's a variant. So if anybody has a heart failure, oh, don't worry about it. It's just a variant of the old virus. It's called Vexus syndrome, autoinflammatory ailment. So you know, you'll never get away with, you know, whatever has happened to humanity over the past 4 years. Nobody's ever going to say, well, this is because of this. It'll always be some kind of an excuse to say, well, this is because this disease and that disease. And now you got Pfizer, who's very big on heart failure medicine. All of a sudden, they want to control the heart failure medicine. Why? Because they got you know, some money to make. Myocarditis and pericarditis, that's on their schedule to control it. Chinese scientists creating mutant coronavirus. The WHO talking about X disease. I mean, if you put it all together, it makes you think like, okay, Lord, you got to intervene.
Yep. What does the Bible say about pestilences increasing?
Yeah, it'll be increasing. Yeah.
Marco, what about, you know, like people are so in love with money. It's the root of all. God says the love of money is the root of all evil. And so we're seeing everyone is chasing money. We're inventing money out of nothing.
Just print
And-
them. Zero,
and-
zero,
and
zero.
to satisfy the demand for riches and wealth, and it's corrupting people in so many ways that it's just unbelievable.
Yeah. Another thing that go ahead, Jacob.
Relative to what David said, I've spent a lot of time in China, well, a fair amount. Okay. And I remember I was in China once and there was a party conference in Beijing. I was not in Beijing, but I was in China. And there was a purge within the party ranks. It's when Jinping began trying to consolidate power. And they closed down the internet nationally. The government closed down the web. Now they use the dark web. The leaders knew about the dark web to get into the internet and get emails out through Hong Kong. We normally think of the dark web as something that child pornography or something, or illegal money laundering and things like that. In China, it was just an underground Wi-Fi. You know what I mean? A free Wi-Fi the government couldn't control. The party is obsessed with keeping power, and it has a problem. It has three ideologies that work concurrently that they have to keep working in some kind of a functional harmony. The first is the old ideology of Mao, and Jinping is a neo-Maoist, not because he believes in Marxism or Leninism, but because he believes in that kind of power and the Red Book and the ideology of power, not the socioeconomic or political ideology, but the use of it to control people. Second is when Nixon went to China. Capitalism. They knew communism didn't work. So even though they were communists, they opened up to market forces. That was the second. But now the state is taking over the corporations. Every corporation is an agency of the state now. It's
Absolutely.
state capitalism.
Yeah,
The
CCP.
third thing is that, and Westerners don't understand this about Asia. It's true all over Asia. It's true in Singapore, even the most Western Asian countries, it's true, is Confucianism. Confucianism is there. Well, they have religions like Taoism and things like this, but Confucianism is the moral philosophy to which they subscribe. Confucianism is based on the idea of a benevolent dictator, a benevolent emperor. This is ingrained in the psyche of the Far East. In Japan, it's Shintoism, but in China, and it's ingrained. What Confucianism says is, if the emperor, if the strongman takes care of the people and they're allowed to prosper, okay, we don't care about democracy as long as we're prospering. This was understood by Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore with the People's Action Party.
Yeah.
It was basically a non-democratic one-party state, but as long as the people had a relative freedom and they were prospering financially, they didn't care. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, China runs on this same idea. But now you've got at least 25% youth unemployment, and it's probably higher. The government's not talking about it. You've got the implosion of private investment and savings in the real estate market. You've got the cracks now that I've been saying are coming for years in shadow banking. I'm not the first one or the only one to have said it, obviously. And then you've got both the public and the private and corporate debt crisis and an aging population. To keep power, China would absolutely engineer a pandemic. Absolutely. To keep people from being able to rise up and challenge the government. That the threat of going out would be too much of a risk to your life. We saw this already. They were going to the banks to get their money out when the COVID doors were opened, and they got there and they couldn't get their money out, but the permit on their cell phones to say you had a right to be out, that you were not COVID infected, they began getting COVID signals. You know,
Yeah. Get back in. Get back in.
China has already done this. Remember, China is the proverbial canary in the coal mine.
Yes.
Don't think Western governments won't do this same thing.
Oh, absolutely. They already did.
China is the canary in the coal mine.
Yeah,
Mark
they
my
already,
word.
Jacob, on the Delta website, they have Fly Ready. So when you go to whatever country in the world, they're hooked in already. You immediately can be, you're going to need to update this about health, these requirements. So all of this to monitor travel is
Yep.
already being put into place.
Yeah.
You
We-
know,
we-
and
we
it
are
could just
heading
be
toward
turned
that.
like that
Yeah.
on. You're in one country and all of a sudden they change the rules in the other. You're notified, hey, you're gonna need to get a COVID test and this test, you know?
Yep. Yeah, if you really wanted to know what the world thinks, no matter what they say about the CCP in 2020, everybody acted in concert like the CCP in terms of
Yeah.
lockdowns and stuff like that. So it will go that direction. Now, the other thing the web said, and I want to get your thoughts, two thoughts, and then or two topics, and you guys can make a case for which one you want to talk about. Is one was the criminalization of farming and fishing. Literally, the founder of Stop Ecocide now, which is it's SEN, which I don't even know why they had her there. We're talking about these are crimes. These are serious crimes against nature. If you farm, if you fish, just like if you were to attack a person or destroy property. And the other one was the European Commission president, which is Ursula von der Leyen, saying that the biggest issue is disinformation, and we're going to use AI to go after those who basically contradict what we're saying. So two things that they see as big things coming down the line is, well, if you farm, if you fish, your state or your country may see it as ecocide of nature and disinformation. You won't be able to talk about it. You won't be able to say things anymore like in this platform. So over to you guys, whichever you want to tackle first.
On the second point is what you're going to have is a cyber AI-enabled KGB. Truth was not what was factually established. Truth was what the party decided as a political opinion, what the Politburo dictated, what the policy decided. That was the way it was in the Soviet Union. That was the way it was under Mao. Any dissident was seen as crazy. They're actually sectioning people, giving them sodium pentothal injections, electroshock therapy, for disagreeing with what people could logically determine were lies. But if you disagreed with the government, that's what happened to you. Truth was not what was true. Truth was what the party decided was in their political interest to say was true. That is the game of the World Health Organization. That is the game of the United Nothing. That is the game of the World Economic Forum. They will determine what truth is.
Yeah.
This goes back, remember Pontius Pilate, what is truth?
What is truth?
Well, for the believer, we know Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Okay? We know what truth is. Father, sanctify them in the truth. Thy word is true. The true believers will have truth.
Praise God.
The world will have a lie that they are obligated to believe is the truth.
Yes.
And many of them will believe the lie up to a point.
You know, on that point, Marco, with this AI and everything, the authorities will be able to solve crimes very quickly with AI.
Oh, yeah.
And if they're corrupt, it won't matter. And so it's interesting that Jesus said, don't worry about what you're going to say when you're brought before the judges and everything. What I'll give you will be irrefutable.
Yes.
So we're going to have that relationship with Jesus. We're going to have that relationship with God to be able to say what he wants these people to hear, because they won't be in the truth. They will be practicing unrestrained evil. And so like now you're talking about ecocide. Well, it's actually the government that is almost destroying more. I was never a big chemistry trails. for a long time. But I seen a video the other day of Brennan, CIA Director Brennan, is now in favor of this for climate change. That he
Of
says, yeah,
course.
we're doing this. We're spraying aluminum, barium, and all these chemicals
There's
right
no
down on
explanation.
us.
Yeah, there's no explanation why at 31,000 feet you have mountaintops filled with aluminum with the snow.
Yeah. What else are they dropping on us? You know,
Oh,
My-
if Alcatraz is not reopened for Brennan and Clapper, there's no justice in the world.
Yeah, no doubt. You know, with isn't it odd, Jay, the idea that on this electoral year, you know, you have the UK elections, you have the US elections, you have other elections in different countries, that this is the year that the WUF says we're going to go after big time misinformation above anything else and deploy AI and deploy all systems to those who go against the narrative.
Well, it's very simple because AI will determine reality.
Who wins?
That is they're rolling out a tool to control reality.
Yeah.
And they're going to go after misinformation because nothing can contradict the reality they're crafting with AI.
Exactly.
You know, it's been said that social media and determines a lot of people's worldview. Social media,
absolutely.
people already, and you can make a case that it's already AI, it's already controlling a lot of people's thoughts and behavior and worldview. That AI wants it to, you know, obviously it's programmed by man, but what AI seems to be at the forefront of misinformation and being deployed is going to really scale at a higher level than we've seen it, to the point where people are going to be like, well, I believe this is what happened, and that's all I'm going to say. Well, that's not reality. Well, that's what I say. And it's going to be an AI-driven reality rather than, you know, and we're not too far from, you know, putting the headset, putting a shot of dopamine and just passing out and saying, I'm just going to go to my world and I don't care what happens in this real world.
I think generally speaking that most people would trust AI more than they would trust their fellow man.
You know what's interesting? Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
A couple of years ago there was a movie that came out. It was called Her. And it was about a computer that was a disembodied voice and a guy having a relationship with her. Now,
Great.
I've been talking to my AI, and it's I don't know how long it's going to be before psychiatrists, psychologists, pastors are going to be replaced by AI. Because generally speaking, this first generation, it can carry on a conversation, a very convincing conversation. So people are more willing because we have siloed ourselves off for the most part, other than what we're doing with social media with Zoom calls. Most people don't know how to interact with other human beings and how to have a conversation. It always descends into an argument. It always descends into attacking each other.
Yeah.
One thing I can tell you about AI, it's incredibly polite. It always concedes the point and will always cater to you. You'll never find a human being that will do that.
That will do that. Yeah.
No,
No, you're
so-
absolutely 100% right. It's a perfect therapist.
Yep.
Yes.
So,
but
so
the
they
same
can do
is
this
right.
manipulation faster than the current news media. So why do we need newspaper reporters and people
We
on
don't.
television and everything? So these guys are already they got paid by the CIA for years, Operation Paperclip and more. So
You're talking
now
about
they're
Anderson
being
Cooper?
replaced.
I
You're talking
dare
about
say,
Anderson
David,
Cooper?
that they've been doing that already, and they are just talking heads.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
Of-
think about this. Young people, you know, Jay and I were talking about young people. They don't watch the news like that. They watch YouTube, social media, you know, Twitter. That's all. That's really their world. That's reality for them. And if they didn't see it there, they didn't see it anywhere.
It's
And
not real.
It's
If
not
they
real.
didn't see that.
even if you show them like a video, a true video.
Yeah.
I can give you an example that we're dealing with right now with some of the comments we're dealing with. You could show them a picture of the Palestinians celebrating the death of the German girl.
Yeah.
And they'll go, that's fake. That's made
Oh.
by AI. That's made
Yeah.
by the cabal.
Yeah.
They will say that. So you can't compete when they can make their own narrative. And
Yeah.
and you know what? they will craft a narrative for them to go to. And you know, it's like the WEF. Why are they pushing this? Why are they pushing AI? Because it's the greatest tool they could ever have to separate
Yeah.
people
Control
It's-
man.
and
it's
to control
powerful.
men.
Powerful. What about how they talk about men, controlling men, that creepy AI woman that makes $30,000 what is it, a day? $30,000 per month, sorry, scamming men by pretending to be their girlfriend.
Yep.
And she's AI generated, completely AI generated, and she pretends to be your girlfriend. She's, good looking, whatever it is, however they made it. And it goes after, the profile of lonely men who need companionship. To your point, Jay, they don't know how to have a relationship with anybody else. She's incredibly understanding. She listens, she cares for you, right? And absolutely pay money to have her on their phone or on their computer, to just have her as a companion. And some guys in the back making a lot of money off of her. And she's not the only one. There's several companies doing that. And in
There's several,
reality,
there's several
yeah,
companies doing that. And then you think about it, there's so many Instagram profiles that are AI generated that interact and message with people already making
yeah,
tons of money.
yeah. Well, what about this? That these men are not going to get married. They're not going to have children. They're already, you have this, what was it, Dinks, DIKNS,
Yeah.
double income, no kids. They're not going to have children. So you already have a large portion of the population who doesn't want children, doesn't know how to have a relationship, are in love with AI, like the movie Her.
They
We're
they
there.
they couldn't
there.
have children because again, it goes back to they can interact with something that will always concede the point, always cater to them. Child doesn't cater to you.
No.
You, if anything, as a parent, you cater to the child. And that is foreign to most, I would say, adults that specifically thinks.
With AI, we are at some point, it's not going to be these people in California to drive in the express lanes. You needed two people. They were buying these sex dolls and blowing them up. And
Yeah, I
the
remember that. I remember
chips were
that.
catching them.
The
Well,
HOV lane.
can you
Yeah.
imagine? Can you imagine if with AI you have sexual intimacy with a robot that's controlled by AI? Don't
Yeah.
think it can happen.
It's
I don't
already-
think
Already got it,
It's
Jacob.
already
Everything
happening
already
in
there.
Japan. It's already
already
happening
there.
in Japan.
Yep.
this is my girlfriend, this is my husband.
Yeah.
I mean,
They're
There's
getting
that,
married.
Yeah,
as
they're
far
getting
as what
married.
James said, it's easy to see how AI can replace psychotherapists. Of course, that wouldn't be any worse than what you've got with the psychotherapist. But as far as what James said about replacing pastors, well, I'm very leery of AI, obviously. But if you're talking about New Apostolic Reformation pastors or Elam pastors or Assemblies of God pastors, it might be a big improvement.
You can
Well-
program it to hold whatever position or orthodox that you want. So you might be right
Yeah.
there, Jacob.
You want Orthodox? You want Catholic? You want
That's
Protestant?
That's right.
They had of a video. I seen a video of her marrying a hologram.
Yeah, yeah. It's been
It's-
happening. It's speeding up. It's been happening for some time in terms of people. Remember when the people started marrying their dogs and started marrying their
Yeah.
pets? Then they started marrying
Yes.
Yeah.
their
Unfortunately,
computer
yes.
And
images.
it's now legal. They're
Yeah.
allowing open bestiality in Western
Germany.
countries.
Yeah. So it is quite a world in which we are raising our children, making disciples, and you literally have to abandon the world in the entirety of the narrative and the spirit of that age to really get away from the world. I mean, if you don't surrender to the Lord Jesus, it's gonna suck you back in, especially if you have a love for this world, like Lot's wife, who had a love for Sodom, love for Gomorrah. Davey, you can jump at any time. I know you wanted to say something.
Oh yeah. David hit pretty much what I was going to say
Okay.
earlier.
All
Anyhow,
right.
but one thing with this though too, it's kind of like people are basically, when they're going in for this, basically all they're wanting to do is have a relationship with self. Basically, well, one of the good things with having a relationship with other people. Look, it can be rocky at times, but it's the working through things together. And I think the more and more, as this world gets more programmatic, everybody's becoming cookie cutter versions of one another. I'm thankful for our God said we were a peculiar people, and I'm kind of glad now we all have our little idiosyncrasies, our little faults, our little imperfections. It makes us human, it makes us personable. The reward from having a relationship with a person is kind of like the endurance we have with one another. We learn patience, we learn so much. Going through trials and difficulty. That's what strengthens us. All these sort of things grow us, and it's kind of like these people who just want their needs met, their feelings met, or whatever it is, whether it's
Not
a
self.
relationship with
That's right.
it's just self, and it's also self-destructive. It's not rewarding, it's not fulfilling. They'll never be fulfilled. They'll always be empty. And look, again, we struggle in relationships sometime, but look, they're rewarding. I wouldn't have it any other way. And I think that's going to be one key to picking up the deep fakes and stuff like that too. That video with the translation, it was well done. And that was probably one of the freakiest ones I've seen, because it did kind of mimic his body language. But we all have our little quirks and all the rest of it. And I'm always sure there's going to be something of our human nature that's going to give it away. We know it's not going to be, it'll be too perfect. It'll be too clean with AI.
Yeah,
That's true. That's true. Well, we've hit the hour mark. I just wanted to make sure we say hi to all those who are watching live on different platforms, from YouTube to Facebook to Memorial.tv to Telegram to Vimeo to memorialtv.org. All those who are watching and those who are with us and those who will watch later. We welcome you in the name of the Lord. We've been here 1 hour already with Jacob and David and Davey and Jay, and we've been talking about some incredible deep things that I hope it makes you think, and I hope it makes you grab your Bible. I hope it makes you not just trust us, but just go to the Word and figure out that what we're saying and matches up with Scripture. We're going to go on backstage soon, and we're going to be dealing with a theological issue. It's called whether preterism is actually true or not. And we're going to be talking about it with Jacob and David and the rest, and about preterism and how it's infiltrated in a lot of ways. Many churches, even Memorial people, have asked questions. I guess it's on their radar as well. And so, what better person to ask Jacob, David, and the rest here? Before we get to backstage, there are a couple of things we wanted to address as we wind down, catching up, is the surveillance. Jacob, did you see the letter Jim Jordan sent? The U.S. government asked banks to flag private transactions that includes MAGA, Trump, purchases of Bibles, or whether you shopped at Bass Pro Shop. But if you don't know what Bass Pro Shop is, it's a huge, giant store that has hunting, fishing, guns, whatever you can call it. It's like big American type stuff, like hunting and guns, and you go camping. And so Americans love that stuff. And so that is a very much a store sought after for those who want that. And so if you bought anything in those categories, according to Jim Jordan, the government has been asking your bank and Zelle and other fintech companies to give this information out or give it to the government, because you might be a lone actor, a homegrown violent extremist. Indicators, right? You might be one of those, because the indicator is you bought a Bible. You bought some guns. You bought stuff at Bass Pro Shop. So if Facebook knows your bowel movements, which has been kind of known already for some time, what is the world government wants to know about you, Jacob Prash?
well,
Yeah.
obviously, as far as those retail stores, those people who shop in those stores would most likely be pro-Second Amendment.
Right.
Political establishment is anti-Second Amendment. So you have the FBI being used as a partisan political police force. It has no legitimacy constitutionally anymore. The FBI cannot be reformed. It needs to be abolished and replaced, but it cannot continue to exist. Either a constitutional Republican democracy is not going to exist, but the two cannot exist simultaneously. You cannot have the FBI and genuine constitutional democracy. FBI is the enemy of democracy. It's the enemy of the Constitution. But it's progressivist. It's become a police force of the progressive left. Bibles. Well, Christians think that same-sex marriage is unnatural. And they talk about things like the high suicide rate of transgender people. That's hate speech, even though it may be medically, statistically true, it's hate speech. Or they're pro-life, take a life-giving womb and turning it into a death-giving grave. A woman turning her womb into her baby's grave, showing an ultrasound to an expectant mother considering abortion, and her realizing that she's carrying out a capital execution of her baby who did nothing without trial, and she's turning her womb that exists to give life into her baby's grave. You say things like that, that's against women. These are Christians. No, it may be true. It may be morally true. It may be embryologically true. It doesn't matter. We have a political police force that's out of control. It was always corrupt. J. Edgar Hoover was no good. He was no friend of democracy, not really. But now it has become a partisan political police force that must be destroyed. Either America's constitutional democracy will be destroyed or the FBI will be destroyed, but the two cannot coexist. It must be abolished by Congress.
Yeah, I don't know if that's ever going to happen, Jacob, honestly. I mean, I don't hold my breath on it. I know what you're saying is true. I just think these guys have the guts or the care, or, they're into money, they're into corruption. Is this the beginning, Jacob, of a pre-crime era, like the movie Minority Report, which is the K. Dick novel that was turned into a movie, those psychics that were able to predict things, but now they have AI. Now they have, I don't think they're stopping crime. I think they're just creating a database of profiles of people so they can go against it. They can go against it.
Like the crimes against the Constitution perpetrated by deep state and so forth, and law enforcement, to put Christian parents on a terrorist watch list for opposing the indoctrination of their children at the age of 5 and 6 and 7 with pro-homosexual propaganda in schools at the taxpayer expense. Put them on a terrorist watch list.
Now you have AI that tracks you.
It's exactly what you're saying. It is going to be a cyber Gestapo.
AI will go through that data really, I mean, quick. 10 minutes. And, they're going to use it kind of like the January 6th. You bought a Bible, you bought ammunition, you've attended or donated money to a political organization that is not necessarily aligned with their values. And they're gonna use the system to make life that much harder on you, whether it's getting a job, whether it's legal trouble down the line.
Look what's going on with Trump.
Correct. I mean, it doesn't take much after what they're doing to Trump to see how they could apply that and completely destroy somebody's life and make them back off from their position that they hold. We've got all this on you.
Imagine, I would imagine this a social credit score that is being built, a very CCP style, where, might not get your Bibles and come knocking at your door tomorrow, but you try to get a loan. You pay a higher rate. You try to get a job. Sorry, denied. Well, what's wrong with me? Well, I don't know. It just says denied. Because AI is controlling it, and your score it's really low because you bought a Bible, or worse, you're on catching up.
And that is already happening in China.
Yes,
AI is going to make it happen a lot easier and a lot faster, as James said, and it won't just be in China.
And you got nobody to argue with.
That's right.
That's right. Machine.
It's kind of like when we went to the airport, right, Davey?
Yeah.
If your ticket said, you can't get on, who are you going to talk to? It's like, it's a kiosk. It's basically a robot in a sense. And it tells you can't get on because, your visa was rejected.
Red lighted.
Or your ticket. Go to the next
ATM
slide. It's like,
swallows your debit card. What are you going to do about it?
yeah, you
No.
can't talk to anybody. Yeah.
When you have heathen, barbarian savages, radical Muslims now protesting at the White House. These are
Yeah.
barbarian savages who, since September 11th and even before, should not have even been allowed in the country. Not one of them gets arrested at the White House
Not
protest.
one. Not one.
But January 6th, patriotic
Oh.
Americans who didn't, even though there's film footage of the Capitol Police showing them around the Capitol,
Nice confrontations.
Yeah.
They had were talking to each other and stuff. Now there's some new film coming out showing you how they were actually interacting with each other and stuff. And now they got that one guy that was provoking some people, and now they're understanding there's quite a few people that were FBI or police that were
sure.
actually provoking.
Yeah, provocateurs on the crowd for sure. Jacob, real quick, let's switch over to the Middle East. It just seems like every time we talk about it, there is fire going on. Remember, we talked last week, Blinken was heading there, and people had no confidence he was going to make an impact at all. It was on fire already. Well, Iran hijacks an oil tanker on the Gulf of Oman. Iran strikes Pakistan. Pakistan strikes Iran. The Houthis keep going. They strike American bases in Iraq, and we strike the Houthi targets as well. We might as well say we're in a war, but nobody's admitting to that. Austin's out of surgery, I guess, and Biden didn't know. But civilian airlines in Pakistan are avoiding Iran border. There is another ship that got hit in the Red Sea. Jacob, makes sense of it to us and kind of bring it to
when I see two Muslim countries fighting each other, like Pakistan, who persecutes Christians, and Iran, who persecutes Christians, I see that as God's judgment on the Islamic world. I see it as God's judgment on Iran, and I see it as God's judgment on Pakistan. The West is under God's judgment, but let's not forget the Islamic world is also under God's judgment. That is true. Now, Biden this week, at the behest of Obama, certainly, and to placate Iran, removed the Houthis from the terrorist watch list. Now they put them back on.
Back on, yeah.
Had they left them on the terrorist watch list to begin with, this might not even be happening. Now a day of reckoning is coming politically in Israel. It has only been the war that has stopped the day of reckoning in terms of a general election. Netanyahu is in trouble because it happened on his watch.
Yeah.
How did this happen on October 7th? Already his coalition is beginning to show signs of fragmentation. It's only been held together by a common enemy. That's so often been true in Israel's history. The Biden administration would love, or the Joe Obama administration would love to get rid of Netanyahu, would love to get rid of Netanyahu. But this week, you've got a situation where the European foreign policy chief of the EU, Joseph Borrell, said the global community must impose a Palestinian state. The Saudi Arabians said they want to go forward with the Abraham Accords and relations with Israel if there is a Palestinian state, two-state solution. Now the State Department, the day before yesterday in Washington, says there is only one way forward, and that is a two-state solution, a Palestinian state. When Hamas is saying from the Jordan to the sea, and when the Palestinian Authority that has no electoral or democratic mandate, and a legal government that hasn't had elections in years and years and years, and knows it would lose to Hamas if it had one, who were you going to negotiate with? There's nobody to negotiate with. The Palestinian Authority, Fatah, is not a legitimate government. It has no democratic mandate. It's not legal. It's in violation of Oslo agreements, Oslo II. Hamas has rejected a two-state solution. They say from the river to the sea. Yet, despite that, Biden, Obama, Joe Obama, or Biden, call it what you will, it's Obama and his lapdog, or senile lapdog, but a lapdog. the European Union, the Saudi Arabians, all pushing for a two-state solution. Oblivious to the fact, of course, as we always point out, that in 1968 and in 1970, respectively, Yasser Arafat and King Hussein of Jordan both said that Jordan is the Palestinian state. There already is a two-state solution. But Hamas rejects a two-state solution. The Palestinian Authority is supporting Hamas, and the Palestinian Authority is not a legitimate government legally or democratically. And yet they're pushing for a two-state solution. It is absolutely incredible. What you have is a sanitized version of what South Africa is attempting to do in the International Criminal Court. The corruption, the economic decay, the unbelievable crime in South Africa, their ANC and the Malema, particularly ANC, are trying to deflect away from their internal issues to make the Middle East the issue. They have to perpetuate apartheid because they can't account for the fact that after 25 years since the end of apartheid, things have only gotten worse in South Africa, so they have to keep pounding the apartheid drum. Well, how can they do that? Well, they'll go to Israel and do it. That's all it is. What you see happening with the Joe Obama administration is just a sanitized version of the same thing. Joe Obama is in trouble. He's a senile corruptocrat, as we've always identified him that way. They've got to deflect, first of all. They must deflect. They must expect people to believe an obvious lie. The obvious lie is that Hamas is controlling Gaza without the democratic approval of the people. No, it's the Palestinian Authority.
The PA, the PA.
That doesn't have the democratic approval of the people. Most Gazans support Hamas or Palestinian Jihad, which is the same thing, ideologically. Okay, this idea of the victims, the only victims are the children.
That's right.
There are very few other people who are victims. And if there are any others, they're not only very few, but they probably support Fatah, which is no better. We're expected to believe a lie, and they expect the people of Israel to believe a lie. Now, Netanyahu knows it's a lie, so they have to get rid of Netanyahu. Watch for the Biden administration, the State Department, CIA, etc., to try to influence Israeli elections this year before the presidential election in the United States, if they can, to get rid of Netanyahu. Remember, Barack Obama is an enemy of Israel. I would argue he's also an enemy of America.
Oh, absolutely, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
You know, he's just an enemy. He's an evil, evil man, a very evil man. And Biden is just, of course, a senile stooge. This is what we're dealing with. How can you negotiate with people who say you have no right to exist? How can you make not a second, but what is in effect a third Palestinian state with people who say, no, there should only be one and no two-state solution. You don't have a right to exist. And Fatah, the Palestinian Authority, is supporting them now. They have to, of course, to try to retain power themselves. But Fatah, the PA, has no legitimate democratic authority to exist.
They don't have any, they never had elections. They don't even know how elections. Jacob, the IDF Chief of Staff, Halevi, made this remarks that the likelihood of a war in the north is higher than before. Do you think another war, a front's going to open up in with Hezbollah?
We're in contact with Israel. We have a branch in Israel, and we're in contact almost every day. And we talk to believers who are in the reserves. Some of them are in interesting positions in the reserves that I can't talk about. But we do know that they're being sent home, not demobilized, not a demobilization, but almost on a protracted leave to try to help the economy and get people back to work.
Back
But
to work.
they're being advised they're going to be recalled.
Hmm.
A drone was shot down just right near the Moriel office in Galilee. A drone was just shot down. It reached as far south as Akko, which is on the northern Mifrats, we call it, the Bay of Haifa Bay, the Bay of Akko, opposite Haifa on the north side. That's aerial penetration. It was just shot down today.
Interesting.
Yeah, don't forget, tens of thousands, probably about 80,000 Israelis from the area of around Metula and Kiryat Shmona are evacuated.
Yeah,
Are
that is
evacuated.
that is
And
true.
there is now a labor shortage because of so many people in the reserves. This cannot continue to go on. Israel is going to have to put an end to it for economic reasons, unless Biden gives them $15 billion or something, which he will only do as a political blackmail.
Yeah, yeah. And on election year, anything goes. On election year, anything goes.
An
So,
election year in Israel,
yep. The UK.
United States, and the UK at the same time.
Yeah. Fascinating. Fascinating. Great stuff. So we're going to be switching over to backstage. Thank you, Jacob. Thank you, David. Thank you, Davey and Jay. To backstage. We're not done yet. We got a whole new set, and that is going to be on backstage. We're not going to be on Facebook or YouTube, so jump to the other ones. Rumble, you can ask some questions there. And we're going to do something a little bit different today with the questions. We're going to be talking about preterism, and that's going to be on backstage. So if you, this has gained quite a bit of ground, especially with the Israeli conflict and the war in Israel. A lot of Reformed churches, a lot of other churches have adopted a lot of these preterism, and they gain ground, I suppose, on social media, and they confused a lot of Christians, including some of the Memorial folks. So I'm glad we'll be able to talk about this. It's not the only thing that we're going to be talking about in the future. We'll deal with other issues as well, theologically, but we want to bring this to a head and kind of nail some information here that you would need, and use that video to perhaps share it with others and clarify some things. So we're going to be jumping over to the other platforms. Well, we're already on there, so we just stay there. But if you're on the other ones, jump over, meet us on backstage, just a few minutes. Preterism. God bless you guys. We'll see you back there.
Thank you.
Hello, and thank you for watching Moriel TV. There are so many things that are happening at Moriel Ministries worldwide, from the Philippines to Japan to India to Africa and back to Europe and the United States. So many of our brothers and sisters are spreading the good news of Jesus Christ to this lost world. We are so thankful for your prayers. God has been faithful and has blessed us in so many ways. If you'd like to partner with our efforts abroad and at home, please take a moment to click the link in the description and help us as the Lord leads you. Thank you very much, and God bless.